This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
And start the clock. All right, off we go for another 30 minutes of fun. Welcome to the Farm Monitor. If you are new to the show, this here, ladies and gentlemen, my younger brother Kenny. I am Ray, and right now Kenny B with a little something we like to call the rundown.
Yes, indeed, and it's another good one, although nothing good about this. Whiteflies, they are back, and this time they have returned with a vengeance. You'll hear from an extension specialist on why this year is different from others. Also on the program, with the 2020 election less than 8 weeks away, we're getting you ready, and we're giving you all the tools you'll need when it's time to head to the polls.
And then later, from the farm fields to the football field, travel with us to Dooley County for a unique look at high school football in rural America. Two young men tell us why there is nothing like those Friday night lights in small town Georgia. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, don't let their size fool you. Although extremely small, the whitefly can pose huge problems for cotton growers around the state as harvest season approaches. Damon Jones tells you why the numbers are up this year and what you can do to prevent them from invading your fields.
This is a sight that no farmer wants to see, as these tiny pests have a big impact on both the quality and quantity of the cotton crop. And up until recently, they have been mostly contained to one area of the state.
We tend to deal with whiteflies on a more frequent basis in what we call our historical core areas, and those are typically areas where we produce both cotton as well as vegetables. And the reason we have whiteflies in those areas, we basically have cultivated crops where whiteflies can reproduce and survive 12 months out of the year.
However, that isn't the case this year, as whiteflies have spread throughout South Georgia due to certain weather conditions.
The winter coming into 2020 was very mild. We only had 6 days below freezing here in Tifton, and that's another factor of why we tend to have more of a problem this year. It's nowhere near the outbreak that we saw in 2017, but whiteflies have spread out of this core area into some of our other cotton producing counties in South Georgia.
With that in mind, growers are encouraged to get out into their fields early and often to prevent them from becoming a major problem.
You have to scout, and it's important that you know whiteflies are there. When whiteflies are present, they should influence every decision we make, because when whiteflies are present, we need to conserve beneficial insects to help us. So we only want to spray other pests when we absolutely have to, like stink bugs, for example. So we need to be managing whiteflies, monitoring whiteflies, basically until every leaf has dropped off that plant when we defoliate the cotton.
And once the problem is detected, timely management is essential if you want to get the most out of your crop.
Where we were late with our treatment or haven't treated at all, we see what I call a general leaf decline, where the leaves just start changing to a darker color, a brownish color. We see some splotchiness of the leaves, and ultimately those leaves will drop from the plant. The other thing we'll see when whiteflies are bad is the accumulation of honeydew. That's an excretion from these whiteflies. It's a sugary excretion. That can accumulate on the leaves. We can have sooty mold, so the leaves turn black. That is something we don't want to accumulate on the lint itself.
With the pickers and balers set to start up in the coming months, Robert suggests that farmers with a whitefly problem get their cotton out of the field as soon as possible.
I want to encourage our growers, especially where whiteflies are present, to defoliate this crop and pick it in a very timely manner. We know there are a lot of advantages to harvesting cotton in a timely manner just from quality and yield preservation, but when whiteflies are present, the sooner we defoliate, the sooner we eliminate that risk of whiteflies impacting fiber quality.
Reporting from Tift County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, meantime, the countdown continues. November 3rd, of course, the 2020 general election. In order to educate voters and increase voter turnout, Georgia Farm Bureau has created a campaign called I Farm, I Vote. Our John Holcomb dives into some numbers and explains why it's crucial for you to get involved.
In the state of Georgia, rural areas are an important part of the state. In fact, 120 out of the 159 counties are considered rural. However, they're often overshadowed by urban areas like Atlanta. Population-wise, it takes 87 counties to make up the population of the 5 counties in the Atlanta area, and during an election year can be a lot of leverage, which is why it's vital that people in rural areas turn out to vote, and why Georgia Farm Bureau created the I Farm, I Vote campaign back in 2018.
When I became president of Georgia Farm Bureau, and really I saw the importance of the election coming up in 2018, I felt like we needed to get involved. Even though we're a nonpartisan organization, we do not endorse candidates. But I knew that our voices need to be heard. I think it was very important. I think it was very appropriate at the timing.
Research after the 2018 midterms proves that they did in fact make a difference in rural voter turnout and are hoping to again this year.
Back in 2018, a case study was done following the election that showed voter turnout was very high in rural areas in the 2018 election, particularly in rural counties. There were 10 or 12 counties, I believe, where voter turnout topped 70%. So obviously the rural turnout was very important and did make a difference in that election, and we just want to make sure that we can encourage our members to do the same again this year. Just because they showed up in 2018 doesn't mean they'll necessarily show up again in 2020.
This year, they added an educational component to make sure people are up to date on the issues and know who's on the ballot.
This year we have put together candidate questionnaires that have gone out to all of our congressional candidates, our Senate candidates, our state House and our state Senate candidates as well. And we are putting those on our website on ifarmivotegA.com. We've also created an election guide that's interactive so folks can go in, click on their candidates in their district, learn more about them through their website, through their questionnaire. We've done video interviews with our congressional candidates, just a one-stop shop so that folks can go and learn about all of their candidates, from state races to national races to even the presidential race, all in one place.
In November, Georgia has 2 Senate seats, 14 congressional seats, and over 200 state House and Senate seats up for grabs. In future years, that could be even more, depending on this year's census data, which is why it's important people fill it out and get counted.
The census is really important for rural Georgia as well, because that is how certain things are dictated, especially money and power. Money being federal funds, other sorts of grants and stuff that are disseminated to counties based on their population, their needs, that sort of thing, which is counted through the census, of course. And then power, obviously, with congressional districts, other legislative districts, they're shaped due to data that is derived from the census. So it's very important for our folks to be counted.
Reporting in Bibb County for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
All right, John, thank you so much. Now, when we come back,
you look around the stands, you see a bunch of like dads just dressed in their farm stuff.
There's nothing like the Friday night lights in a small town. There's nothing like them.
farming and football in South Georgia. That's next when the Farm Monitor continues.
This time of year, there is a sound that is unmistakably and undeniably familiar. A sound in which dreams are built upon.
There you go. Go deep.
And it's a sound that can literally shut down an entire city.
Hey, work on me, work on three. 1, 2, 3, work.
That sound is high school football in rural America.
There you go, Brent.
Hey, just let me play. Hey, let's have a good day, hey.
You look around the stands, you see a bunch of like dads just dressed in their farm stuff, and you got kids running around, like you know everybody.
There's nothing like the Friday night lights in a small town. There's nothing like them. I mean, because everybody's looking forward to that Friday night.
Here at Fullington Academy, football is more than just a passion. At the risk of offending some, one could argue it's a second religion, a birthright, if you will. And for the majority of these kids, the discipline it takes to even put on those pads didn't begin in some weight room or on a youth football field. No, for them, it started on the farm.
ever since I could walk, I've been wanting to go and ride the tractor with Daddy, ride the tractor with Uncle David, ride the tractor with anybody. All I wanted to do. And all I still want to do, but this time I drive it. I mean, I do everything from mowing grass, picking up rocks, pulling pig weeds, you name it.
How does that hard work, the work ethic that you learned on the farm, how does that translate over to the football field?
Well, it's like on the farm, say you're like mixing something up. Like if you don't do it all the way, it's not gonna do right. So like say you're out here and you're with the guys, like you don't like practice right, then the game's not gonna go the way you want it to go.
You know, that's the great thing about being at a small school like this is a lot of these kids, you know, we have to do summer workouts in the afternoon because a lot of these kids are going to work on the farms in the morning, or they're working jobs in the morning because they got to help support their families or help their family business and things of that sort. And, you know, they work all day and then they come and work at night with me.
In his first year as Fullington's head coach, Brian Brillin knows a thing or two about farm kids and rural high school football. Originally from Florida, Brian spent the majority of his youth in Perry, both as a player and as an FFA participant, where he proudly donned the corduroy jacket and showed cattle. At 24 years old, Brillin is currently one of the youngest high school head football coaches in Georgia, if not the youngest. He tells me when the opportunity presented itself to lead a group of young men from rural America, he jumped at the chance.
You know, how good you do is how much you practice, how much you work for it. You know, everything in agriculture you have to work for, you know, and, you know, it is not one of, it is the most important business we have, especially here in Pinehurst and in Georgia, but in the world. We would not be where we were at without agriculture. So the lessons I learned in FFA from both the Gentrys, Phil, Philip, and Mr. Claxton, you know, they carry with me today. The hard work that I had to have to do that, it still carries with me today.
My granddaddy, he's farmed, and most of my uncles, they've all farmed, and I mean, I just grew up standing up in the seat of a tractor.
Fullington Jr. John Eric Watson is a rare breed. Having recently turned 16, Watson sounds more like a middle-aged man who knows exactly what he wants out of life. It's not accolades, nor is it some pipe dream of playing Sundays in the NFL. When his playing days are over, Watson, like the generations of family before him, wants to farm.
You know, it's not easy to start. You have to start small, but, you know, dreams do come true. Farming ain't for, don't get me wrong, but it ain't for a weak person. I mean, it's always heavy lifting. You got to stay at it. I mean, just like my granddaddy and the farmer I work for now. I mean, the one I work for now, he gets up at 4:30 every morning, and he works till 9, 10 o'clock at night. He never sleeps. But I mean, the job's got to get done. That's just like out here on the football field. You may be tired, but the job's got to get done.
You know, these kids really need football. They need a sense of getting back to normal because a lot of these kids, you know, this is the only sport they play in the entire year. And, you know, especially for these seniors, this is their last shot at it. And, you know, just getting them the chance to come out here and play and let loose and play the game they love. You know, they only get so many times to do that in life, you know. I tell them to kind of look around every Friday night and take it all in because you never know when it's going to end. And as well with that, you know, there's no other game in the world, you know, in my personal opinion, that, you know, grows you closer as a team, teaches you the physical and mental toughness that football does. And you're only going to get that feeling when you play Friday nights. I can't even get that same feeling that I have when I played coaching. Comes close, but it's nothing quite like the feeling of strapping up and running out on that field with all those fans and everything looking at you and cheering and all that good stuff.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Get it, Avery, get it, Avery. Family on three, family on three. 1, 2, 3, family.
For the Farm Monitor, I'm Ray DeLessio, Dooley County.
Wow, great story, Ray. Thanks so much. And folks, if you'd like to see it again, you can do so at our YouTube channel. Like we always say, the archives go all the way back to 2009. Plus, give us a shout out on our Facebook page, and while you're there, post some pictures of you and your family on the farm. We also enjoy sharing your story with others. And speaking of which, if you have a story idea or maybe you want to make a comment or suggestion, send us a message either at Facebook or the address that is on your screen. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Up next, in his own words, how cover crops open the eyes of this Jenkins County farmer to a whole new world of soil health. Stay tuned.
Being here in the nation's capital, I feel is really extremely important for us to represent our members, to represent Holstein USA. And so I count it a privilege to be here today and to visit with the representatives and tell them what how we're feeling in the industry and what we anticipate, what we were looking forward to, what things down the road can help the dairy industry and American agriculture.
That's Kansas dairyman Dwight Roque. He joined fellow Holstein Association USA board members in Washington, D.C. to advocate on behalf of the nation's dairy farmers and families. Peter Dupingeiser of Wisconsin.
I really think that members and senators want to hear from people that have boots on the ground. They really want to hear from people who are doing it. Why is it important to you? Why does that matter? Because if they don't hear that passion from the people that are actually doing it, they have no incentive to work on it.
During their meetings on Capitol Hill, dairy producers emphasized the importance of key issues such as transparency in milk labeling, the agriculture workforce, and a plan for national livestock identification.
So some of the key topics we discussed with the representatives was, one, the imitation milk products that are out trying to steal our label of milk. We visited with them quite a bit about that, trying to get that law enforced to take that labeling off the imitation products. We talked a lot about animal identification, the importance of getting a national identification program up and going and implemented.
Protecting trade and expanding access to international markets is a top priority as well.
In the case of China, we're in phase 1, so we really want to see that move forward. And one part of that we would like to see is access for our members to market live cattle to China. Currently, we can't do that. So if there's an opportunity through that trade agreement that helps us move that forward, that would be huge for our members.
The U.S. dairy industry has had its share of challenges in recent years and will require leadership and action to provide a brighter future.
What keeps me optimistic about doing this is the optimism I see in my fellow board members, in our organization. Everybody has a positive attitude, and they really, our industry has been in a downturn for 5-6 years, but yet there's so much opportunity ahead and optimism that, we can change this. We're gonna move forward.
For Holstein Association USA, I'm Miles Ramsey.
Well, finally this week, as part of its Healthy Soils for Sustainable Cotton campaign, the Soil Health Institute has released a video series featuring 3 southeastern cotton producers and their individual journeys to build profitable soil health management systems on their farms.
And one of those producers right here from Georgia. In the video, you're about to see Burton Heatwall from Jenkins County discuss his multi-species cover crops and how they changed his soil for the better.
I'd started in cover crops for myself in about 2006, and we had used cover crops, but not for the sake of cover crops. It was more accidental, or it was a side benefit, the fact that we were trying to graze cattle over winter. When I started in planting the tillage radish, I put that in the window behind where we combined corn in July or early August, and then we've got this 75 to 90 day window till we plant wheat, because we've always followed corn with winter wheat. And it looked like a great opportunity to grow something in that window. And so when I was introduced to the tillage radish in 2006, I went in there and planted 6 pounds of radish with a drill on 7.5s. And I stood back and watched my head explode, because, 75 days later, I had radishes out there that big around, and I was just going, whoa, what am I going to do with that? And my daddy's like, you got chunks of firewood out in the field. How are we going to plant wheat in that? And I was scared to death. I don't know what was going to happen. But the first thing I noticed was, the next time I went across that field with a tractor, how soft the ground was. I literally heard the tractor idle down. But when it hit, it just quit pulling. It wasn't working anymore. It was just like cutting through with hot butter. It was unbelievable. And so I saw that compaction alleviation, and then I started realizing there's nematode suppression in there, there's nutrient scavenging. You know, I had good ground cover, I didn't have the winter weeds, and I was just like, wow. But so that started me kind of in this passion about cover crops. And so first I was using single species, I was using radishes, and then I got sun hemp the next year, and then I started mixing them up, putting them together. Now I plant, 8 to 10 usually, different species in a blend. And I mean, that has absolutely been incredible.
We've been doing single species covers since the late 90s. And when we got into this 6 years ago, as far as the soil health and the cover crop thing, the thing that finally pushed me off the edge was an NRCS program through CSP that called for a continuous living root. And it also called for a multi-species cover. It was 2 different programs. But anyway, on the majority of our acres, we went with triticale and radish as our 2 species for our multi-species cover that year. And I put the 40 acres that I mentioned earlier into it was a 5 or 6 way blend that year. Spread it around in a bunch of different fields so we could see it in different crops and that sort of stuff, and let it go. And much like what you said, when I pulled the strip till rig through where I had 5 and 6 species growing versus what ended up being a triticale monoculture, you could feel a difference in the tractor. You could see a difference in the way that the soil behaved. And looking out the back window of the tractor behind that strip till rig, where I had that multi-species blend, the soil was a completely different color. And it planted, it looked different, it felt different. And so that was kind of the jumping off moment for us. That was the aha when you look at that, and then combined with what we saw in the year with the difference in weed suppression, moisture retention, that sort of stuff, where, I had triticale that was maybe halfway up my thigh versus stuff that was, shoulder high. Later in the season, you could see a real difference in the benefits that you were getting out of that. So that's kind of what pushed us off the edge and made us jump into it on everything the next year, on all of our acreage.
All right, good stuff. Once again, special thanks to the Soil Health Institute for producing that great video series.
Well, you hear the music. Before we send you on your way, a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out our social media platforms. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of agriculture and with us here on the show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor.
Have a great week. Stay safe.